to the Global View podcast. Today's episode will focus on ocean pollution with an exclusive interview with Amanda Perna from Debris Free Oceans. Can you please introduce yourself and feel free to include information about your background and role?
Yeah, so my name is Amanda, and I'm the program manager for Debris Free Oceans. And Debris Free Oceans is a 10-year-old Miami-based nonprofit. We have a mission to empower local communities to go zero waste. And I personally got my start with the organization in 2022 as a Chef Andrews Scholar, and this is our 1-year internship program for undergraduate students, and it's to help them gain experience in community organizing and communicating the plastic pollution crisis. And today, I now oversee the program, which is really exciting. And I also manage our plastic-free business consulting programs, and I host events where we aim to educate and inspire our community to live a sustainable lifestyle.
So, what is Debris Free Oceans' biggest accomplishment and how has it affected local communities?
Yeah, so it's hard to nail down a biggest accomplishment because we've had many highlights over the year. Since 2014, we've removed over 61,000 pounds of debris, educated over 14,000 students about plastic pollution, and have prevented the use and disposal of over 3 million single-use plastic items. We proudly partnered with the city of Miami Beach and Miami-Dade County to create Plastic Free Miami Beach and its sister program, Plastic Free 305, which are voluntary business certification programs, which highlight our local businesses that are just going the extra mile to reduce plastic consumption. And then we have a new and exciting program called Zero Waste Miami, which is a cross-sector coalition working to build a circular economy here in Miami. And this is kind of the culmination of all of our accomplishments, because over the last 10 years, we've engaged with a lot of different people within our community, like local cleanup groups, zero waste service providers, schools, businesses, and governments. And then now the goal of Zero Waste Miami is to bring all of these people together to figure out how we can create a local economic system where it's like everything is just remaining in circularity through reduction, reuse, refill, repair, and composting, which is a tall task. But since January, we've already engaged over 100 individuals and 75 entities, and we received federal funding from NOAA Sea Grant to help support this. Yeah.
So, how can the average person contribute to Debris Free Oceans cause, and what lifestyle alternatives could be pursued?
Yeah, so the easiest way to contribute is by coming out to our events, so that we can educate you on our cause and also donating to help support our efforts. And we also organize educational and unique cleanups for schools, community groups, and corporations. So people that are local can reach out to us so that we can coordinate that, and yeah, get to just witness the waste crisis firsthand. And as for lifestyle changes, I always like to start off by just saying that the most important thing to remember is that we don't need one person doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. So starting small and just starting with what you can do already makes like all the much the difference. And so like some examples of what you can do is start using a reusable water bottle, move on to a tote bag and then a cutlery set. And then that's pretty much all the single-use plastics you'll get if you go to the store or the restaurant. And then if you want to go even further, you can start a compost bin in your backyard. And if you don't want to handle the smelliness of composting, you could sign up for residential composting services. And then you can also always vote with your dollar and support local businesses that are just doing a really great job at reducing plastic. And so Plastic Free Miami Beach and Plastic Free 305, which I mentioned, they have online maps where you can go and find different businesses in the Miami area that have been committed to going plastic free, and then you can just support them that way.
So, what is the largest obstacle in achieving clean oceans worldwide?
Yeah, I would say that the largest obstacle is the exponential production of plastic. So the best metaphor that I've seen for this is imagining like, if you're trying to empty out a bathtub using a bucket while the faucet is still running, like, that's impossible to do, and that's what's happening with plastic. Like, we keep cleaning up our beaches, but the amount of plastic keeps increasing, and so, actually, since 2000 is more than half of all the plastic, like, ever produced on Earth has been made since then, and by 2050, plastic production is expected to quadruple. So that's why like the best way to achieve clean oceans would be to close the tap and stop producing plastic. And if we can't close the tap, at least in the meantime, turn it down a notch. And it's 80% of our marine debris that is in our oceans is coming from land. So it's our own actions and habits every day that are then getting into like causing plastic to end up in our storm drains and our water systems, which make their way to the ocean.
What are debris-free oceans goals for the next 5 to 10 years? What do you hope to accomplish?
Yeah, so our very big and ambitious goal would obviously be to achieve a zero waste Miami. And what this would look like is scaling reuse in our community. And so kind of imagine you go to a restaurant and instead of having a styrofoam container to take home, it would be a reusable container. And then around the city, you can deposit that container somewhere where it can get washed. And same thing for coffee shops. There's reusable coffee cups and collection facilities. And it's just like this beautiful ecosystem where nothing goes to waste. Everything has a place where it belongs. So we're really actively trying to figure out how to make that something realistic and feasible and not just seem like a utopian society. And it has been happening in other parts of the world and the US excitingly. And so we want Miami to kind of follow this. And yeah, another thing that we would hope to accomplish is just kind of normalizing the idea of sustainability. Right now, it feels like there's still kind of just a small bubble of people who care about sustainability and reducing plastic. But we want this to just be across the board, like normal, like we don't even need to kind of like go out and educate people about it. It's like everyone is kind of aware. So yeah, we kind of say always that like hopefully one day we funny enough like don't have a job because it's like everyone kind of knows now about sustainability and reducing plastic.
Why is plastic such a large contributor to ocean debris, and how is a debris-free ocean working to mitigate this?
Yeah, so plastic is such a large contributor because it never goes away. So it will never break down because of the composition that makes plastic plastic. So instead, it continuously breaks apart into smaller and smaller pieces that then are microplastics and nanoplastics, which now most people are familiar with. But even they get to a point where they become like invisible to our eyes and they can end up like even getting in our bloodstream and our brain. But just because they're so small that we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. So even those tiny plastics are like contributing to ocean debris. And it's just the fact also that it's exponentially increasing. So we keep producing something that never disappears. It's estimated that maybe it'll last for 500 years, but it's only been invented for about 100 years. So none of us will be around long enough to actually see that happen. And so, what we've been working on to mitigate this is just through education. So, the more people that we tell about the dangers of plastic, the more we can encourage people to consume less of it. Because even though we organize many beach cleanups and scuba cleanups across the county, ultimately that's not gonna make much of a dent in terms of eliminating the debris in our oceans because if we go back to that same spot a week later, it's gonna be just as dirty and have just as much plastic there. So really it's us having to change our habits on land and teaching people how to do that so then we can see less trash in our ocean.
How has our worldview of ocean health developed and evolved over the past 15 to 20 years?
Yeah, so this question's funny because I'm only 22, so not speaking from so much experience, but from what I've read. But I definitely feel like over the last few years, people have become a lot more aware of how our ocean health is declining and how it's our responsibility to handle that. And it was interesting because I recently learned that from as early as the 1990s is when people started realizing that we had a plastic pollution problem and that we've been consuming too much. And the reason why they came to realize that we have a problem is because they started seeing so much plastic in our ocean, and that it was kind of like before the 1990s, our oceans are so huge, right? They cover like 75% of the earth. And so people thought that they're so huge and so vast that our actions can't possibly like make a difference to them, because it's just like one small drop in like this huge ocean. But we see that we have like a whole kind of island made out of trash, right? The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which like made people wake up and realize like, oh yeah, we're like kind of doing so much so excessively that it's declining the health of something that is so huge. Yeah.
That was the last question I have prepared, but are there any concluding statements that you want to make?
No, I feel like I covered everything that I wanted to say. I really liked the questions that you put together, so I think it gave like a nice scope of our organization and what we do.
Thank you for listening to the Global View podcast. Come back next week for another episode.